Hello again. A lot of people are perplexed at the sudden display of openness in which the American government is now engaging as regards UFOs, or unexplained aerial phenomena, as they are now called. For many years, since at least the late 1940s, the policy of the United States government has been resolutely to deny that there is anything at all in reports of flying saucers and other mysterious craft which so many people claim to have spotted. So determined have they been to take this line that there are those who have concluded that something is being hidden from us, that the government really knows all about alien spaceships, that they've got captured spaceships hidden away at areas, this, that, or the other, secret military bases, and that some spaceships have crash landed on Earth. The idea is that the Americans are keeping these spaceships secret and using reverse engineering to try and build flying saucers of their own to give them the edge over either the Russians or the Chinese or someone. But it's important that they keep this knowledge from ordinary people. This has given rise to all kinds of conspiracy theories, such as the events of Roswell, the Majestic theory, and all the rest of them. Recently, though, the Americans have adopted precisely the opposite strategy. Some people find it very heartening and see it a sign that the American government is now opening up and becoming more free with the information that they've been hoarding over the years about flying saucers. They have been drip feeding us now, for at least a few years, images of mysterious flying objects which have been tracked by radar and intercepted by the Air Force. The capabilities of these supposed craft is simply unbelievable. They travel at astonishing speed, many times the speed of sound, and they can stop and change direction instantly. More to the point, these objects appear to have an alarming habit of hanging around military bases and observing American forces in action. There are claims from supposedly from pilots of the American Air Force that they've even been found hovering over nuclear missile silos. It's all very disturbing. A new conspiracy has now emerged, and this, as is so often the case with such things these days, it's based upon old science fiction material from the 1970s. As viewers will perhaps be aware, I was suspended from YouTube for a week recently for talking about just such an idea, one relating to a modern epidemic. This was something based upon an idea taken from the science fiction program Star Trek and involved a collective mind. It is also associated with a catchphrase coined on the British science fiction series Doctor Who, as long ago as 1967. So touchy a YouTube about this idea that I can't even name it for fear that they're going to take it amiss. Such ideas do seem to be all the rage these days, and now something of the same kind has emerged which purports to explain why the government of the United States is suddenly so keen to assure us that there really are flying saucers and that they are behaving in a menacing way, spying on military installations and deploying advanced technology far beyond anything which we are ourselves able to replicate. It is being hinted by some that the government wishes to foster the idea that aliens are scouting out the Earth and that there is a very real danger that an invasion from outer space might be on the cards. There could be different reasons for such a deception. One would be that it would serve to unify both America and possibly even the whole world. If we all began fearing aliens, then we might forget our petty squabbles and national differences and all unite against the peril from outer space. Once the United Nations was involved, this might bring about a world government. This leads us to the second idea, that pretending that UFOs are now hanging around and pose a threat to America could allow the American government to declare a state of emergency and suppress democracy. Perhaps a military government would be formed and people would go along with it, uniting to face a common foe. There are various versions of these ideas, but all depend upon the UFOs which we are seeing in that released footage as being faked with an ulterior motive on the part of either America or the United Nations. This too, just like the theory about which I spoke and for which I was suspended, is based upon science fiction from 50 years ago. In this case, this particular book. This book is called Wild Card, and it was published in 1974. It tells of the American nation in crisis, hopelessly divided by racial and political differences to such an extent that another civil war seems possible. A plan is hatched that involved the American government faking an attack by a flying saucer, and this causes everybody to unite behind the president as they face a threat from aliens. Just as in wartime, nations often all pull together, and so too does America in this novel. This is the source of the modern ideas floating around about those UFO films which we have all been seeing over the last few years. I do not myself subscribe to this idea, I need hardly say, but I'm coming across it increasingly in odd corners of the internet, and I have an idea that we shall be hearing more and more about it next year. David Icke, of course, talks about this plan, which he says is part of a plan to change the way of life on Earth. The deep state will get people worked up into a panic until they will accept any restrictions on liberty, anything at all which will protect us from the alien invasion. I'm sure that the technology is available to stage such a hoax if a government sponsored it, but whether or not there is the will to do so anywhere is another matter. There's an awful lot about this floating around on the internet. In the description to this video, I give one simple a link to somebody mentioning it, but those interested can easily scout around and come across all manner of material about it.